Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk about Phoenix Feathers. Also, secondarily, the Emcron crystals and not the Emcron shards, but mostly Phoenix Feathers. And it has to do with something that I've been struggling with lately. So I thought, why don't I tell you guys about it, give you my advice, and if you're struggling with it too, hey, maybe I can help you out, and maybe something else can happen along the way. I don't know what. But let's just talk about it. Basically, there is a cap, as you guys know, on the Phoenix Feathers. It's a cap of 3,000. There's also a cap of 3,000 on Emcron crystals. Believe it or not, the cap used to be 2,000, which was pretty trash, but now it's 3,000. But the problem that I'm having and that I'm running into lately is that I get too many Phoenix. I know, this is going to sound so awful. How do I live with myself? I get too many Phoenix Feathers when I play Marvel Future Fight. Oh, it's so awful. My life is so hard. But between the 6 missions, or the 3 different dungeons in the Epic Quest for Deadpool, and the 3 different dungeons in the Epic Quest for the X-Men, both the deluxe one and the 2 Veiled Secrets, I get between 300 and 400 feathers per day. Now, after the Deadpool update, with all the tier 3s and all the new level 70s, it was real easy to spend those feathers, and I really couldn't stop spending feathers, and I needed more feathers, and 3,000 wasn't enough, and I never had this problem. But now that we are pretty far away from that update, and now that we haven't had too many new mutants that require feathers to be built up, we don't have any uniforms that require feathers for X-Men, we kind of come to this lull. And for some of you that either don't invest in these characters, or like me, you invest in them very rapidly, you've probably, or you're going to be hitting this lull pretty soon. And if the next update, for example, it's Fantastic Four, and it doesn't include any X-Men, you're gonna definitely hit that stage 2, buddy, where you have too many feathers and you don't know what to do with them. So there are a bunch of different things that, of course, you can do with your feathers. So I'm gonna just try to run through them in order of which ones I think are probably the most important. Now, of course, the most immediate use for feathers is to rank up the gears on native tier 2 mutants like Wolverine. If you've completed his epic quest, his gears are still going to be at 15, and you need to get them to 20. So that's, of course, a really important factor in getting the character to kind of fighting shape. Another example is Deadpool. You not only need to get his gears to 20 using Phoenix Feathers and then Dimension Debris and Gear Up Kits and stuff like that, but then you need to get his gears again to 25 after you've gone from level 60 to level 70 by enhancing his potential. So getting his gears from 20 to 25 is going to require not only tons of feathers, but also Dimension Dust, the new tier 3 component, and Titan component packs. Now, this is the problem that I'm having. I still have characters that I can get, I still have mutants that I can get to gear 25. I still have a bunch of options here. Strife is one example, Cable is another. There's plenty of mutants that I can use. I mean, right here we have more. I can use feathers here, I can use feathers here, I can use, oh no, I can use feathers here. Absolutely. But the problem is, I don't want to waste these valuable, precious, rare tier 3 components to rank up a character's gears who might not get a tier 3 for the next year. Gambit might not see a tier 3 for more than 12 months, so I don't want to necessarily do that unless, of course, I absolutely love the character or I absolutely have to for a specific game mode. So I do have options, don't get me wrong. It's just that I want to spend the feathers, I don't want to spend the Dimension Dust and the Titan component packs. So on the other hand, for characters like Deadpool, if you need to tier 3 him, you absolutely need to get gears to 25 anyways. If I wanted to tier 3 Magneto, I could have done it. And I actually did already, not necessarily to tier 3 him, but just to get him ready. And also, you guessed it, to spend Phoenix Feathers. But in the course of doing that, over the course of spending those Phoenix Feathers, I realized I was spending a lot of tier 3 components. So if you're not upgrading the gears on X-Men or native tier 2 X-Men for after gear 25, level 70, that require Phoenix Feathers and those tier 3 components, then what else can you really spend your Phoenix Feathers on? Well, there are very few, but a few X-Men that you can spend Phoenix Feathers on to rank up their uniform. So the best example I have, and the one that I would probably recommend, is to rank up Cable's uniform. It requires feathers. I think it's up to 1,000 feathers or 1,200 feathers for the last upgrade to Mythic. and it's very worthwhile because if you know anything about Cable, he's an absolute badass, and he gets even more badass with his eye patch and his Robotech uniform. So that is another avenue for you to spend your feathers. The good thing about spending your feathers on this uniform is that it's not going to cost you any tier 3 materials. It is going to cost you uniform upgrade kits, a lot of them, but at least you won't be having to spend other super rare, super valuable materials. But beyond those two avenues, gears for characters and then uniform upgrades for other X-Men to get their uniforms up to Mythic, really, what other option do you have? Well, the other big option for more veteran players is to upgrade a character's potential. Now, I see a lot of newer players upgrading their favorite characters to level 62, 64, 66, and it's honestly a really bad idea. The only exception to that for newer players, I would say, is Phoenix Feathers and Mcron Crystals, because if you don't have a way to spend them on some of the characters that you're building up, if you still haven't unlocked Jean Grey, you haven't finished Wolverine's Epic Quest, etc., then you might hit the cap before you can spend them in any other place. And if any of the other things that I'm about to say don't appeal to you in terms of spending your Phoenix Feathers and Mcron Crystals, then this is probably the next best option. And this is actually what I've been doing. I actually enhanced Phantomex's potential up to 70 just to burn the extra Phoenix Feathers and Mcron Crystals that I had. Now, I mostly focused the video so far around Phoenix Feathers rather than Mcron Crystals because there are more places to spend Phoenix Feathers. You can spend them on gears, whereas you don't spend any Mcron Crystals on characters' gears. You also don't spend any Mcron Crystals on characters' uniforms. Also, you get Mcron Crystals a lot more slowly. I said I grinded about 300 to 400 Phoenix Feathers a day. I probably get less than 100 or about 100 Mcron Crystals per day. Probably less, probably like 80. So it's a huge difference. 400 versus 80 when they have the exact same capacity is kind of bananas. I wish they would bump this to 4,000 or 3,500 just to reflect the fact that these are not acquired at equal speed. But because of that, because of the imbalance between Mcron Crystals and Phoenix Feathers, you can try to help that by waiting until your Mcron Crystals are almost at the cap and then using them for enhancing potential. So that is what I've been doing. I've been doing it for Phantomex. I'm going to be doing it for Domino, and I did do it for Domino already to get her to level 62. However, that's 92. It's really not that bad. However, there is a problem with this. The problem, as you might guess, similar to the tier 3 materials for the gears, is the biometrics. Now, I know I sound like I'm complaining a lot, but this is a serious issue. If you don't have, if you're not farming enough biometrics, and I still have a lot, don't get me wrong, compared to some other players, this might seem like, you know, a millionaire crying about his bank account. But I have noticed that I have a lot fewer bios, and if I'm trying to save bios for future updates to get those other new characters, perhaps Sue Storm and Reed Richards, to get those characters to level 70 ASAP, I'm going to have to save literally thousands of bios. It takes 2,400 bios to get a character to level 70, so I actually spent over 2,000 bios just to get Phantomex to level 70, even though I really didn't give a shit about Phantomex to level 70. Now, some of you might say, okay, Cynicalex, I know what you should do. Just sell your Phoenix Feathers for gold. And I've actually had certain people, perhaps joking, perhaps serious, tell me to do that. Just sell like 500 Phoenix Feathers. Yeah. No kidding. So that is, and it continues to be an actual problem for me, and I'm trying to find a remedy for it. So if you can't do the character gears, if you can't do the uniforms, if you can't do the potential to enhance a character to level 70 because of biometric restrictions, and I know a lot of you complain that you don't have enough biometrics to get all the characters you want to level 70. I understand. Here's kind of your last great place to spend your Phoenix Feathers. It's in the lab, and this is going to take some pre-planning. So if you're listening and you want to do this, you need to start doing it now. You need to start leveling up your antimatter generator as close to level 15 as possible, because you're going to need a lot of antimatter. And then you need to upgrade your processor probably to level 15. I think level 15, the last level, gives you the best place to spend your Phoenix Feathers, and it is in the consumable tab in the uniform upgrade kits. Now, I say that this is the best one because two of the other items that you need, two of the other resources, are pretty easily available. I know some of you guys have gear up kit issues, but for the most part, gear up kits become less of a problem when you're struggling with Phoenix Feathers. These component packs are also pretty easy to get from story missions. And then it's just these suckers right here, these Stark branded blueprints. You can see I'm actually completely out. So for once in your life, you may be looking at a resource that Cynicalex has less of than you have. Not crystals for once, not gold, but these Stark branded blueprints. I just don't play story missions anymore. I don't need bios for story mission characters. I don't need gear up kits or Norn stones because I get those from co-op because of my VIP level. But I don't get any of these from my VIP level. So I actually have to go, and I'm dead serious, I'll show you right now. I actually have to go back into these missions, and I start with Black Bolt, and I just I just quickly clear ticket them. I went from 24 to 54. Okay, we're going to scroll through. Let's do some, not Agent 13, let's do some Ghost Rider. Maybe Ghost Rider will get his cosmic uniform eventually. We're up to 80 now. Keep going through. Okay, Ultron, I like Ultron as well. Let's bang out another 10, and it's pretty cheap on the energy. Even when you have no boost points, it's only 40 energy for every 10. I'm up to 98. Are you kidding me? 98, really? 99. Okay, they're joking around with me. That's great. And we just hit 100. So we go back now to the shield lab, and I legitimately do this almost every day now. And I can do 100. So, no, I can't do 100. Shit. Okay, so that's why I told you to upgrade your antimatter generator, because you're going to need to get a minimum of 70,000 per day, which is kind of difficult to do, so you might have to bank this up in advance. So you may need to spend your feathers on other things, but this is basically what I've been doing lately. The good part is that you can generate more uniform upgrade kits, which can then allow you to upgrade other uniforms, both the ones that cost Phoenix Feathers or other ones, but the downside is that you're going to need to make sure that you have enough of these, and of course enough of that pink stuff. There are other things in the processor that you can use for Phoenix Feathers, so you can definitely use the custom gear. This is what I loved to do before when I had tons of these, when I had thousands of these, but it does cost 300 rather than 100, so it's triple the cost in terms of the Stark branded blueprints, and you're actually spending fewer Phoenix Feathers. So technically this is worse because it's only 150. If you're trying to burn Phoenix Feathers, it's triple that and only half of that. Really doesn't get what I want done. You can also do, this one's even cheaper. This is probably the easiest one to do, and it's much lower level. I don't believe you need level 15. It's like level 12 or something for your processor level. You can get comic cards. This is probably one of the most attractive options for free-to-play players. You're still going to need tons of antimatter, and it's only 150 feathers that you're burning every time instead of 300, but it's only going to ask you to spend Phoenix Feather or Dimension Debris, and gear up kits. I'm getting confused with all the different resources. So this one is the one that's least expensive, but it's also spending the least number of feathers. So you're going to need proportionally double the amount of antimatter, because to spend 300 feathers, you're going to need to spend 140,000 antimatter, whereas with the example I gave you with upgrade kits, you only have to spend 70,000 to spend 300 feathers. You can also, I believe, Uru. Yep, you can also do it for Uru, but again, it comes to the same problem where you're spending less feathers, so you're spending more antimatter. And finally, if you really wanted to, you could make Mcron crystals with Phoenix Feathers. This one's pretty weird because you only spend 100 Phoenix Feathers and you also have to spend 50 black antimatter, but these are other options that you have available to you if you get really desperate like I am and you just need to get rid of your feathers. Thank you so much. I need that really badly. So those are the ways that I've been kind of creatively trying to not sell my Phoenix Feathers and also not skip the missions. That's another thing that people suggest to me, just don't play the missions that give you Phoenix Feathers. That's not really an option. I don't want to skip out on 20 Magneto bios and 20 Psylocke bios per day and all of the other resources that you get, shifter bios, gold, etc. I don't want to skip all of that just to not have Phoenix Feathers. Of course, I could just hit the cap and not care and collect all of the other resources, but I like to min-max and be as efficient as possible. So for those of you who like to be as efficient as possible, for those of you that don't like to waste your resources or sell them or anything like that, follow these tips. Let me know what you think. If you have any other additional tips, also hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of the lack of sneak peeks. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.